Senate Republicans say no way. They've band together to oppose the health care reform bill. That means its fate rests solely in the hands of the Democrats.
As the debate over health care reform wages on in America, there are people around the world who have never been to a doctor. While we take for granted that our children can go to a pediatrician for checkups, there are children in Africa who are almost deaf because of a simple ear infection. The simple things we're able to take advantage of in the United States, some people in Ghana, West Africa, long for just a portion of the type of healthcare treatment we're afforded. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27, the Message Bible says, "Never walk away from someone who deserves help. Your hand is God's hand for that person." Mission RDCI was sent out to do just that, be God's hand on this earth in Ghana, West Africa. Right Direction Church International sent a team of medical professionals there to treat people who may not otherwise see a doctor. This team of doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals provided treatment for illnesses such as HIV, malaria, diabetes, high blood pressure, and even hearing loss. In partnership with Reverend Faithful and Mary Biney and African Relief Mercy Missions, Mission RDCI provided treatment in nearby villages and orphanages.
We're with Save Them Young Orphanage here in Tema, Ghana. And as you can see, I have a friend already. I don't know her name yet. What's your name, sweetie? Huh? But she's just as cute as she can be. And so we're here to see as many of the orphans as we can. We're going to do a lot of anemia testing, screening for iron deficiency, probably handing out some iron tablets as well. So we're really excited to be here. As if you can pan behind me, Brandon, and take a look at got all the kids that are out here. They've been waiting on us all day. So we're excited to be here. Let's get started. Put your work already, huh?
The kids at the orphanage were like any kids anywhere you go. Excited, energetic, talkative, looking around, kind of playing with us, kind of wondering what we were doing there, but just like any normal kids you would see here or anywhere else. They were very ready for us. They had the room kind of prepared. They were just very ready. They knew the kids that needed medical attention. They kind of weeded out the ones that we were going to be able to see and the ones that really needed to be seen, because it was getting dark, so we knew we weren't going to be able to see everybody, so they just kind of were very fast and quick with getting everything ready and getting the children that we needed to see there and kind of putting the other ones back that didn't really need to be seen. The medical needs were pretty much the same as in the village and in the school that we went to, just the skin rashes and GI issues or ear infections, pretty much the same. I don't think we saw anything that was really different than what we'd already seen since we'd been there.
He's got a skin rash here. This is a fungal rash. And so we're gonna.
That's Prince.
His name is Prince. He's a handsome.
So cute.
Handsome. But he's got a fungal rash. So we're just basically gonna tell him to get all the baby powder off. So you can see that light area. That's fungal there. You can clean all this baby powder off, and then we're gonna put him on some antifungal cream, which we have. And this should clear up very nicely in a couple of weeks. When we went to the orphanage and we took care of a child, his name was Kobe. That was really a fun trip because the kids were really excited, and when they brought him for me to evaluate him, I could tell immediately by looking on the side of his face that he had a huge abscess on the right side of his face, pretty much located right here near his ear. Keep in mind, this was like our last day there. We had by this time seen several hundred patients, and I was, to be honest, I was exhausted. So when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, I've got to deal with this. And you have to think about it. We're in this remote area, and he has this huge abscess. Well, I knew we had to lance it and remove it. So we decided to see him last. I saw the other kids and we waited on him last because, one, it would probably take a while. And then we're in a schoolroom, we're not in a clinic, and I had to think about how we were going to do this so that it could be safe. Particularly because the abscess is located near his ear, but if it wasn't treated, my concern was that the abscess could eat through the lining of his scalpel in that area and really caused some serious problems.
Just his trust in us and his courage and bravery. I mean, we were working on his face, and he just had such strength throughout it all. And again, like I said, was just very trusting in us for what we were doing. And
so we got him set up for the abscess and made a makeshift table, procedure table. And all the team members were really supportive. We decided how we were going to do this. And then before we did the procedure, Ms. Biney said, well, why don't we have a word of prayer? We prayed over him, and as we were praying for him, when we ended up at the end of the prayer, he said amen at the end of the prayer. And when he said that, it really made me feel comfortable that everything was going to be okay. We did the procedure, and we probably removed, probably at least a half a pint of pus came out. And while I'm doing this procedure, of course, all the other African people are looking over our shoulders, and I'm sweating like mad, hoping that I don't do something that didn't work out, but thank God it did, and then we packed the wound.
To be 7 or 8 and, have a needle going into your face, if you were an adult having a needle going into your face, you would be kind of a little uneasy about it, but he was just very calm.
The next day I wanted to see him because we were leaving that next day just to make sure he was doing okay, and he was smiling, and we repacked the wound. And the thing that really blessed me is several weeks after we returned from the mission, they sent a picture of him to me, and I mean, the wound was completely healed, and he was sitting there smiling, and it really blessed me that I was able to go all those thousands of miles to make an impact on a young child's life. We went to several locations in Ghana to provide medical services. The first place we went to a remote village in the central region of Ghana. We spent 2 days there. We saw 3 or 4 cases of malaria. I saw some patients that had chronic abdominal pain. There were a couple of kids that we saw that had malnutrition. We saw a lot of infectious diseases, skin diseases, quite a bit of asthma as well. But then I saw some common problems like carpal tunnel syndrome, which is a problem where the nerves in the wrist get pinched, plantar fasciitis, which is basically tendinitis on the bottom of the heels. We saw that problem as well. And a tremendous amount of high blood pressure. We saw patients with pressures up in the 200s, over 110s. We saw patients with diabetes, which I didn't think I would see as much of, but we saw patients that had those problems as well. The first one that really sticks out in my mind was a patient that we saw the first day that we were at the village. He came in and had a lot of medical problems. He had chronic belly pain. He had chronic sinus issues. He really looked like he had some really serious medical issues. Unfortunately, we saw him towards the end of the day, and so I wasn't able to really treat most of his problems. So we had him come back on the second day, and he showed up on the second day. And as I was interviewing him, it just really felt like that he had, I had a feeling that he probably either had HIV or AIDS. So he was telling me about some of the problems he had had in the past, and a lot of it fit into that picture of patients with HIV that I've seen here in the United States. So what I decided to do after prescribing his medications is took him back to a more private area with our translator, who was Mary Biney, and basically, asked him, I said, well, the problems that you have are really, a lot of patients with HIV have these problems. And then I could tell by looking at his face, he was really nervous, and he said that he did have HIV and AIDS, and he told me the medications that he was on. And just looking at him, I could just tell how hopeless he looked. Little did I know, and Ms. Biney told me this later, that HIV and AIDS is a really big taboo over there, and that he could have gotten kicked out of his village if anyone found out that he had it. So then we began to minister to him and ask him about his relationship with God, and which he did not have, and I encouraged him about taking his medicines for his HIV. So then we allowed the ministers over that came with us to minister to him as well, and he received Christ right there at the clinic, and it just really had a big impact on me that we were not only able to help him in a physical way, but also spiritually. So that was one of the patient encounters that really impacted me. It really makes me, first of all, appreciate all the blessings that I have personally, but then it also helped me to realize just how blessed people who may not have as much as you have really are. The culture there, the things that they appreciate, the relationships that they have, I didn't really have that depth of it, and so even when I came home, I really made even a renewed commitment to value the relationships with my family, my wife, my kids, and friends, my church. So it really had a big impact, and I'm hungry. I'm ready to go back because it just had that big of an impact on me.
The first thing that we did when we got there, we were able to go and look into the classrooms to see the children in classrooms, and that was just, it was wonderful because you saw probably better behaved children than here. We were able to, you know, sit down and have lunch with the Bineys and just kind of do more of a tour. Once we did that tour, we got ready to set up to see students. The children at Fountainhead Christian School were so well behaved. They were groomed. You didn't see the shirts hanging out of the pants like you do at the kids at the American schools. You know, they weren't running through the halls. You know, you could hear the joy, you could hear the laughter, but you could see the seriousness that they had for learning, and so that discipline is what impressed me mostly. We had a child that needed to have some lab work done, and it was just a finger stick, but the reason she stood out is because prior to her sitting down, there was a teacher that sat down, and that teacher was so nervous. In fact, the teacher kind of jumped and screamed when we stuck her finger, and the child just kind of sat there and almost looked at the teacher like, you gotta be kidding me. But just to see that child so young, not just appearing to not be afraid, just to see how she kind of sat there and almost offered support to that teacher, I thought that was commendable.
It was a girl that we saw at Fountainhead Christian School. She actually had come to the school with a fever, and the teacher said that she had just been treated for malaria at the hospital. She had a very, very high temperature. And so I evaluated her and felt like even though she had received treatment that the infection hadn't really been taken care of. So we called her mom, and her mom came to the school, and I explained everything that was going on. And we checked a malaria test on her. It was positive. And we were able to give her some malaria pills right there. And the reason why that's so important is, well, malaria is very common there, but we were actually able to help her by giving her the medicines, and we knew that the treatment was going to be effective.
It changed me a lot. It really did. It made me more appreciative of what we have here. You know, I mean, just my own kids, my own childhood, just things I take for granted. I mean, just seeing kids that have skin infections because they're sharing washcloths. So, I mean, we had a situation where one kid had a skin infection and passed it on to her two brothers because they were all sharing cloths and bath water. Well, that's something we take for granted here, just everybody having their own washcloth and towel. You know, I think just seeing kids have ear infections to the point of near death. You know, I mean, deaf isn't hard of hearing. So, I mean, that was something that I didn't know was even possible. You know, I got 3 boys, and I mean, we've had ear infections, you know, very run-of-the-mill thing. You call it, you know, pediatrician, and you get prescribed, you know, some type of antibiotic or something, there's no problem. But these kids had ruptured eardrums and having eardrum and ear infection problems from 5 and 6 years to the point where they can barely hear anymore. And that was just crushing to see that. So just the structure of the states, the way we are structured in our infrastructure and the way we coexist and the way everything is set up and laid out, we just take that for granted. You go other places and you realize the rest of the world don't live like you do. And the small things you take for granted, like having a hot water heater in your house. I mean, that's something that you don't see a lot over there. So having warm water without having to heat it up, I mean, that's something that we just didn't see. So it was life-changing.
I've always seen the great need in Africa, and to be able to go and to know that, you know, my services impacted someone's life, you know, possibly assisted in a process that could possibly even long-term save someone's life. that really fulfilled, I think, a void that I had within myself. I'm confident, career-wise, my medical career, but, we have so many things that are made available to us on a day-to-day basis, and to be able to give that back to someone who did not have it and may not have it for a long period of time, that really, just like I said, filled a void in me and made me not prideful, but made me proud to be a part of a team that, that just was able to give of ourselves and was able to carry out the true mission of our Christian values.
The continuation of this mission is not possible without your support through financial contributions, donations of medical supply, and volunteers. Help to be God's hand for those who are in hopeless situations. Help a child to hear their mother's voice just a little more clearly. Help someone get the necessary antibiotics to cure a wound that just won't heal. Even if you never step foot on African soil, your help can say, "I've already been there."